Ricky here with Breaking Your Barriers, and I brought back a very, very amazing guest who's going to be sharing once again some of her experiences with narcissistic abuse. And what's beautiful about today is it is part two. If you haven't seen part one, check out that video. This amazing guest of mine is Margaret Manuel. She's going to be putting her heart out on her sleeve today, giving much more in-depth information regarding the signs, the symptoms, how to spot, as well as how to possibly avoid the experiences that she's gone through. So I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to let her share the stage. It's going to be hers today to share everything that she's experienced, everything that she's overcome. And basically, she's just going to be an amazing advocate for you who is listening. Anybody going through the same experiences, tune in, be ready, put your hands together for Margaret Manuel.
Thank you so much, Ricky. Thank you so much for having me back here. It's such a great pleasure. Thank you.
Margaret, please continue on, because you've received so much amazing feedback from our last get together.
Yes, and thank you so much for that. And I do have to really shout out my friend here, Ricky, for giving me this opportunity. And not only that, it's so important for him to provide this really safe space for me to open up and share my heart and vulnerability. It's such a huge deal. I just have to really thank him, and that is really important to have.
Today, you literally got in contact with me and said, Ricky, I'd like to share much more. And that is not easy.
It's
and
not at all. Yeah.
You're amazing.
It is. I have to admit, it is not easy to share. However, it needs to be said. It needs to be talked about. And that's also my platform. The name of it is You Were Free. And if you get the chance to check my social media, that's my platform. That's the name of my platform. And, not necessarily like you are completely, like 100% not there. I mean, you may be not there, like physically, emotionally, mentally, but like I said the last time too, it could still kind of, like hit you here and there, and that's okay, and that's normal. It's not linear, just as Ricky said the last time too. Like it's a gradual type of abuse that it's a long process. So even when you get out of it, it's not like, hey, I'm back in this real world, all me, I'm all good to go. It's not like that at all. It does still take time. And it could even be longer than the time that you were in that type of relationship, but everyone's different too. So like I had said the last time too, if you need to take the time to cry it out, take the time to take a little bit of a break for yourself, do it. And it doesn't make you a failure. It's, your nervous system, what happened was it had been compromised for many years, and that's what I learned as well. Because I had shared that, there was a time period where I would kind of just put it in the back burner, hit the gym 2 to 3 hours. But I really had to learn that I had to heal my nervous system, because it was that traumatic stage of my life was I was in a fight, flight, or freeze mode, and that's what I learned during my time of me, educating myself, and I still am. But that's why, like, take the time to if you need to, 5 minutes to cry, or 15 minutes, or whatever it may be, or you want to grab a cup of coffee or read a book, and that's fine, without having to explain to anybody that, hey, I need to do this. Because not only that too, like what I had said previously, like no one sees what you went through. Like there's no bruises, there's no scratches, there's none of those. So it's really internal, it's really mental and emotional, and abuse is abuse is abuse, physical, mental, emotional. There's also financial, and I will touch base on what my experience was I dealt with a covert narcissist, and there's different types. Covert is more very hard to describe and prove because on the outside they look like this like perfect person, charming, very nice and kind, but behind closed doors it's a completely different ball game. And from me kind of educating myself, a lot of them you'll never be able to even guess if they were that person. From my experience, I had that person with a good career, high paying job, and you can never guess that, oh, he seemed like he wouldn't do that, seemed like he wouldn't do this. So that's when I started sharing my experience to some people, and it was very hard to believe. So then I had shared in during the last time too that it's traumatic on its own to even start sharing it, because for me, like, I got like, oh, it's kind of hard to believe that he may be doing this and that. So that's the experience for me with a covert because of that. And there's like different types too. There's like overt, there's the malignant, and the overt is more like grandiose narcissist, where, for example, they walk into a room and they're like, oh, I'm this and that, I am, like you have to respect me. So an overt is not at all like that. So it's very hard to tell that that person is a narcissist because he seemed very normal. Like I said, good paying job. He seemed like he functioned well, was able to get to work, function at work, function in like what that type of career that he was in. So it was very hard to distinguish. Yes. So that is a covert, and there's definitely like a lot more description in regards to that, but that is a covert, and that's what I dealt with. And I can't even stress this enough. Very hard to prove or even describe. So during the process, that when someone is even describing that, like from my experience, it's kind of like, I would get like, oh, are you sure? Maybe you're getting it wrong. So in turn, the victim is then, on one hand, like had questioned for like my sanity for a very long time. And now I'm trying to, kind of like share my experience, and it's like a traumatic on its own already. But then I would get like, oh, yeah, maybe he is, or maybe I'm getting it wrong. So that's like a different type of trauma even that I wanted to, point out. So as far as signs and what you can look for, I'll be very honest, the covert, oh my gosh, it's very hard to distinguish, because like a malignant or an overt, I've come across an overt, and I would say the overt would be, how I said, they weren't born to be a narcissist. They were raised, or whoever, they were groomed to be a narcissist. And that, going back to what I had said before, it was through his mother. So his mother was more an overt narcissist. So you could totally tell walking the room, and just the way, she would speak, and things of that nature. So because his experience with his mom was just, like more of a facade, that's how he became, like more of a covert, like everything is like just hidden behind closed doors. And although like his mom had shown him, oh, you have to do this and that, in front of other people, it's kind of like, oh, you have to be this certain type of person, And he's always, oh, my son is this and that. My son is great. My son is, doing so great. My son gets good grades. My son is just on this high pedestal already, but behind closed doors, it's kind of like, you can't do that. You can't, you break a glass, you're this and that. You get a C, you're a failure. Yes. So those kinds of things. So I think that's what made him into more of a covert, where, he brought it on to having a relationship later on as an adult. So everything was just kind of like behind closed doors, and more like sneakily, like the abuse is more like sneakily happening, not how should I say this? Not, of course, not going to be like in front of like a lot of people. Definitely not. So they're hiding behind a mask. And a lot of narcissists do that. But like I said, I can only really speak on the covert. That's really what I had, experienced. So they're hiding behind a mask, and also behind the facade of having a good paying job, having, maybe like a nice car, or just having that facade, like, oh, we have this family, we have this going on, so nothing is wrong. But there's already like so many things that were happening for X amount of years that it was just, oh, well, we just have to be okay. Let's not show this to anyone. I remember, let's not show this to anyone if we would go to family gatherings. Let's not show this. Let's not, like, don't tell anyone what's going on. Or
our dirty laundry.
yes.
We have no weaknesses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like we would be, acting like, oh, all happy, even, oh, let's take pictures. And, a lot of people in our, I mean, I can't speak for everyone else, but like a lot of Filipinos like to like take pictures and things like that, right? During parties. And I remember I'm like, I don't like taking my pictures, especially if it's not, like you're smiling in pictures, but to me, I'm like, I'm not happy.
Right.
I'm not happy. And then it's being posted on this and that. And to me, that's just 100% fake. And I had to do that. I'm like, no, I can't. And even for instance, I don't feel like taking pictures. And then like, no, you're being mean. You have to take pictures. And so it's like that. I pretty much put on a show. We put on a show, and that became kind of like a normal thing, of course, until it wasn't for me anymore. Yeah. But that became a normal thing. And just oh, let's be here because everything was like pre-planned. That became normal, and I have to always like act like a certain way, and everything, like with a covert, everything happens behind closed doors. So like we'd be acting all happy, taking pictures, eating, you're with a family. But once you get into the car, I would get like these comments. I can't believe you said that. Why did you say that? Don't say that anymore. Yeah, so literally like once we get into the car, or when we're driving home, or once we get home.
You're walking on eggshells.
Yes, 100%. Walking on eggshells, 100%, just what I said the last time as well.
God.
Yeah, so me thinking, oh, I'm being myself, I'm enjoying the party, I'm having, because that's what you said. So, but, oh, you can't say that. Don't say that. Even, for example, like the way I smiled, you have to smile a certain way in pictures. So, for example, like we would take pictures, right? And then he would look at it. I don't like you smiling like that. You have to smile like this. You have to smile like this. And even like clothes that I wore, I couldn't wear camo. I couldn't wear, what is that? Like plaids. What else? Like just like things that I could, and those became my normal. So it was just very controlled. So like the things that I described like seem very subtle.
Yeah.
But those are very damaging. because you can't do this, you can't do that. It's like, how can you be your authentic self? And those are things that are being said to you behind closed doors. So when you're putting on this facade in front of how many people, and then once you start to describe what's going on, I couldn't understand. It's hard to believe because you put on this show for a lot of people that like, oh no, this is really what's going on behind closed doors. Oh really? So but for me, when I had experience, I still like just pushed through it because I understood that it wasn't easy for people to believe, but I've had to, otherwise it would just continue to still eat me alive. And I'm just grateful for the ones that really were there for me, and that like really listened to me and had that safe space for me to open up, because even that, as I share sometimes when we're being questioned, it's kind of like, oh well, so was it valid and that I felt that way? But I want you to know that it is valid, and I believe you. It is valid, and that is your experience. And um you know it's your experience. And it's an unfortunate situation, but it is valid. I just want you to know it's valid, and I believe in it. I empathize with you.
And your gut feeling typically will not do you wrong.
Will not. Will
Yeah.
not.
And what's interesting was what you said a moment ago, which was at the beginning of what you're sharing. After the fact, and I can still feel your pain. Honestly, Margaret, I can still feel your pain. I know exactly what you're saying, and I could feel it. I could feel it. And what you said earlier is so important, because even after you are out of that horrible, horrible situation, it still lingers. And one thing that people should definitely keep in mind is it's not a finish line. Boom, I'm here, I feel better. It is a life progression. It is a journey as you continue to heal, as you continue to gain more trust, and most importantly, as you continue to learn to re-love yourself and stop second thinking yourself. That's what I'm picking up from your amazing share right now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ricky, for that. I appreciate that. And yes, you're absolutely right. It is not, it's not something that like, oh, boom, it's overnight gone.
Right.
It's not. It takes some time. And that's why it's so important to me. I mean, number one is a lot of prayers. And like you said, like your gut feeling, your intuition,
Yes.
it won't lie to you. And that's you really have to listen to it. If it's something that's not setting right, more than likely it's not right. And especially, I think one more thing, I think if you have to Google if things are normal within your partner, I think that's like another red flag
Red
already.
flag.
Yes, if you have to Google if these things are normal, no, they're not normal. They're not normal. And not only that, if you're always like in hiding, because I remember during those times when it was just I was just like there, I didn't know what else to do.
Right.
And it was just so controlled. My phone was controlled, that whenever he'd come home, so who did you talk to? And he knew things were not okay between us. Yeah, I mean, we both knew. And the main concern is always, who did you talk to? Did you talk to anybody? And what did you tell them? Like, what did you say about me? So it always just goes back to his concerns as to just like him and him alone, and his facade and his appearance and his reputation.
Right.
So at that time I would be like, and I'm gonna be honest, at that time it was kind of almost like whenever I come home, I've had to like delete all the people that I've called, and it's not even in that sense where like someone is cheating. It's just me like trying to have someone, have someone like I'm crying out for help and I can't. And not only that, during that time I didn't even have social media too. So the isolation was just like on a whole nother level.
You're just looking for a confidant, just somebody to share with.
Right. Yes. So every day I was like, so who did you talk to today? What did you say? who this and that. What did they say about me? What did they think about me? So it was just always like that, that it's just so controlled, you know. And so that, like, just that feeling on its own, where you kind of like have to delete, or like, what is why is my partner behaving this way? So it's just, you're just not safe all around, emotionally and mentally. And I remember, and it was just, this is such a sad thought for, you know, any, and I know a lot of people that are in a relationship or married. It's not normal when I was happy if, you know, once my spouse was out of the house to go to work, and once he's about to come home, I would get this anxiety and like looking out the window, and I'm over here like trying to like check my phone, and like, you know, I already kind of would foresee what he would ask me, and I had to like, I felt like I had to be prim and proper and not even stutter whenever I spoke to him, like, oh, so what did you say? What did you say, you know, about me? Who did you talk to? Who, this and that? And that would be a major red flag. So, you know, something is not sitting right. And and like I said, with a covert, those are all happening behind closed doors. So say, for instance, if he were to be in front of those people during that time that I contacted, it would be like this. Oh, hi, so how are you? So say, for instance, if he were to find out, even like, oh yeah, I kind of mentioned this, so we were going through this, it's just going to be, he's just going to act like it didn't exist. And he can go on, you know, living a normal life, when really down to my very core, like, it's not right. And even like the person that I spoke to, like, hey, you know, is there something I can help you with? He's just going to completely omit that, like, you know, put it over his head, like nothing's going on. And that was happening for a really long time. And it was just so unhealthy and very toxic, very, very toxic. And to have that your normal every time. And then once they're out of the house, for example, or we're, you know, we part ways with them, you know, like, it would be like I told you earlier, like, don't ever say that again. I can't believe you said that. You know, don't say this, don't say that. And just, you know, like, when what I had said the last time too, when we went to therapy, same thing. So when you're in front of other people, there's a lot of things that I couldn't say.
Wow.
And how even I acted, it was just very controlled, very controlled. So as you could imagine, like, that type of abuse is very damaging. And for a covert, it's very hard to, you know, I would say the word prove.
Yes.
Or yes. So, I mean, let alone to some people that I know too. And I remember when I first started saying it, it was, I remember saying it to my mom.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, I mean, I understand no one's perfect. I'm nowhere near, you know, perfect. But it's kind of like, I even second guess myself. And that's the thing. You know, when you're second guessing yourself, but you're constantly being abused, because, oh, who did you talk to? Who did you share this with? And I understand to an extent, like, you know, you kind of keep it within you when you're married, but you're sharing it to trustworthy people. That's the thing. And they're not out to, you know, make fun of you. They're, you know, like, the logic and the intention of doing that is, you know, I need some comfort. You know, this is what's happening. And also, not only that, I've asked, can we go to counseling? Like, no. So it's a no. And then so it's a no to counseling. It's a no to sharing it with other people. And it's a completely 100% yes to just keep pretending, going on with their lives, pretending, sleeping in 2 separate rooms, and just going about our lives. And I even said to myself, how long are we going to do this? Because I cannot go on pretending for years, and something has to change. But Yeah, so that's my experience with a covert. And
My my respect, my respect, appreciation, and love for you is untouchable.
oh my gosh, thank you. I appreciate that so
Yeah.
much.
For you to share what you're sharing. I mean, it's affecting me, even just hearing it. For you, I can imagine how devastating it is. And I appreciate how you broke it down for
Mhm.
people listening, because the covert would be the most difficult one to prove, since
I
it's
would say so.
your word against theirs.
That's correct. That's the struggle with that. And especially if they have this, he's looked at, oh, this person with this type of career.
Hmm.
And truth be told, just like in the real world, that's kind of like how people base their respect off of. I feel like, it kind of goes that way at times.
I think that's crazy.
It is. It sure is. So
Wow.
when it's, you're someone's trying to prove it as the one that's been a victim,
Hmm.
that's kind of always a question, I guess, whereas like, well, if he hadn't had like this type of career or whatnot, maybe, I mean, I don't know. I'm just kind of like
Or
thinking,
Margaret, you're overreacting.
yes, correct, because he's clearly functioning well, like with that type of career. So of course, like it would be seen as like, oh well, he's unlogical, he's functioning very well. So the things that you're describing, it doesn't seem like it doesn't fit, with
You
that
said it. You said
description.
it perfectly last time we spoke, which is the facade of the white picket fence.
Yes, it was that facade, and that facade, oh, I don't like the word hate, but I hated that facade
Yeah.
so much. And it was a white picket fence, if I'm being honest. I never even went back to that home, even just to pass by again. It was just, I called that home my prison. I
Mental,
never,
emotional,
mental, emotional, that, and for someone to
physical.
be happy that your spouse is not around, like if you're going to be, more relieved,
Yeah.
more comfortable, more at peace, there's something wrong. There's something wrong, because normally I would think, oh, I kind of miss my spouse, but I can't wait till he comes home. It wasn't like that.
Not in your case. No.
No, not
You
in my
you
case.
you your heart would probably go up. You
Yes,
your brain would start just panicking.
that's
That's that's
correct.
that's
And that's
terrible.
why, with that said, people that have gone through that, their nervous system
Yes.
have been compromised.
Yep.
And that's why it's so important to recognize those things, and not just say, oh, it's just how it is. It's not, we're it can be my normal. It's not. And especially if you're not feeling normal
Right.
already, those things. And at the time, I mean, it's like I said, it's easier said than done. Like at the time, it was like, well, we're going through this. But I think another number one thing too, sorry, not another number one thing, because I said like several different ones,
Yeah.
but part of the list that I wanted to point out, to pretty much look out for, is if they're not wanting to get help. Because what I found out about that is, if they're not wanting to get help, pretty much they don't want to be outed for whatever it is that's going on. They don't want to be outed. They don't want to be set, diagnosed. Just like I said the last time, that once the therapist started calling him out on things, that's when he quit. So, if they don't want to get help, they just want to keep things under wraps. That's not right, and that is very abusive. That is very manipulative, 100%.
Yep.
And that's 100% wrong. And it's not, it's not normal. It's not normal. And I had to learn that, and it wasn't. And sure, not everything is going to be perfect, but if you're just very controlled as to who you speak to, And what did you say? Like, what did you say? What did you say to that person? Did you make me look like this? If, like, to me, those are the kinds of conversations that I had. What did you say about me? Did you make me look like I'm the bad guy? Who did you talk to? At times it's like, oh, how long did you talk to that person? And at the time, quite honestly, at the time I was like, okay, I'm just answering because that was my normal. But you get to a point where it's just not normal. There's a lot. It was constantly happening, and you get to a point where, like, well, we need help. And then once you bring up that that idea, I don't want to get help, so you have no choice but to be trapped. But that was not my choice. So that's the ultimate reason why I left.
I'm so proud of you, though. That's the fact that you fought through that and you left. That's the courage needed to do that is amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. And I know, and from the messages that I got since our first video was posted,
Yeah.
and thank you all so much for that, for those encouraging words, supportive words, and I've had some people say, can I forward this to someone? Or I mean, not can I, but like, I'm going to forward this to someone, and please do. And that's why I can't really stress this enough, to for us just as human beings to be that listening ear, be compassionate, and for the ones that are going through things, it's not at all too late. Even if you feel like you're too in too deep, it's not. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. And I know that's a lot easier said than done, but once you recognize really that you're not you're not in a healthy relationship. And especially if that person doesn't want to get help, you can't solve anything, when you're married, if the other one doesn't want to get that help. So if you're the only one that is wanting to go, because when you're married, it consists of two people. So if you're the only one getting that help and the other one doesn't want to get help, there's something very wrong with that.
There's no resolution there for
There's
sure.
no resolution, and
None.
there's no right. There's no, the other person's not being open to it. So there's no, how can you solve it? And going back to what I had said the last time too, like, there's nothing wrong with therapy. Nothing wrong with therapy. And if you have to go, you have to go. And
That's right.
it's even admitting to yourself that you need help. And we need that. We need that. Therapy is really good for you. And also, I have to say, to also try to look for, because this is what I have had to look for too. I know I saw a support group at the time, but as like the years had gone by, I had to also look for one that specialized in narcissistic abuse, because not all therapists could also help you, kind of like similar to if you were to go to a massage therapy, if you're needing to get a sports massage, but that person can't do it, then of course that person can't help you.
That's right.
So it's just that same idea. And I remember going to seeing a therapist too, but also to supplement, if you will, I've had to search for one that specialized in like narcissistic abuse.
Yes.
And that was when I learned about the nervous system, like me being compromised, or having my nervous system compromised, because I had mentioned to her that, yeah, I mean, I've been out for like X amount of years, but at times I feel this way. And then that's when she had explained that, well, that's normal, you're feeling like that because you have been in a fight and flight and numb phase for X amount of years. That, yeah, you got out of it, but you have to heal your nervous system. And that's why you're feeling the way you feel when things come back to you. And that's why it's very important to take that time to cry if you need to cry, and not just put everything in the back burner, that like what I was doing before, just hitting the gym and thinking it's okay. And same thing again, but it caught up to me, I would say, like 2.5 years later.
Right.
Yeah, so
Wow.
that is my experience. I hope it helps someone out there. Like what Ricky and I said,
Mm.
it is the covert, and not to, of course, not to downplay all the other ones, but like I would say coverts would be the most difficult one to prove, if you
Yes.
will.
Yes.
Not only that, there's no signs physically, but they're very good at, like doing things under wraps. Very, very good. That, of course, when you start saying things out in the open, you are still looking like the crazy one. And that's a challenging part. Um, it didn't take overnight, but for anyone that may be going through that, and not only that, sorry, I should have touched base on this too, like a little bit earlier. Gaslighting is a psychological abuse where, just like when someone is making you feel crazy because you're speaking your reality, or they're altering your reality, and they're saying, no, you're the crazy one, it didn't happen this way. So that's gaslighting. I've experienced that for a really long time. And gaslighting, and a narcissist, that's like their number one tactic, is just to gaslight you and make you feel that no, that didn't happen, it's just all your imagination. Just like with me, who did you talk to? Who did you talk to? How long did you talk to that person? What did you say about me? But if
Wow.
there's anything that's kind of like remotely something that like he didn't like, or even if it's, but it's true, like, why did you do that? Why did you made me sound like the monster? And same thing, that's why with a therapist you can't go, because anything that I said, well, every time we came home, he would just be like, oh, why did you lie to a therapist? Why? I can't believe you said that. And same thing with the family members. Why did you say that? Don't say that again. I can't believe you said that. Don't say that next time. Don't ever say that again. And that will just, like I said, deteriorate you if you don't recognize it, that you're not being you anymore. And it's not, it's the worst, and especially if you're isolated. And for me, I have my immediate family all out of state, and I can't even really fully describe like how that felt. And just my little tiny joys at the time was whenever he left for work, and that on its own is not normal. Yeah, so I believe anyone that's going through this, there's definitely a, all I can speak on is my experience. Like, this is what I had gone through, and I'm just here to share that it's not what you're going through. If you're going through something like this, or have gone through something like this, emotional and mental abuse, and that whole gaslighting, know that that's not okay, and you're not crazy. I want you to know that you're not crazy. Trust me, I was made to feel like the crazy one for a very long time. Even when I initially got out of it, I'm the crazy one. And even when the police was called at the time, my mother-in-law at the time said, why did you call the police on your husband? You're not supposed to be calling the police on your husband. And I said, well, he was very aggressive. And the response, and this is what gaslighting is, this is a perfect example. Well, he was probably aggressive towards you because you did something wrong. Yes. So that is a perfect example of gaslighting.
He's acting this way because you might have done something.
Yes,
He's reacting this way because of something that you possibly said or did.
correct. And at the time, because I was in that environment, of course, if that's what you've been getting for years. Oh, okay, I'm wrong. I'm sorry. I did it. I shouldn't have called the police. And then, and I have to, and that's why, like, just, it's important to know that domestic violence, it is not just physical. And I just want to say again, it's not, not to downplay that, but it's mental, emotional, and financial. And I just want, like, it's important to talk about that and to put, like, like a spotlight on that, because not a lot of people would think that, or would kind of, downplay it when it's not. And someone that is gaslighting such as that, I mean, there's so many more incidents, but that's off the top of my head. That's what I could 100%, think that that's a perfect example of gaslighting. Yeah. So, and also, truth be told too, just in our court system, and I can say my experience with, Los Angeles court system, but unfortunately, and I know, like, I've had some people like come up or converse with me about that regarding their experience as well, like, where they are, like, different states that they're living. They don't recognize that as domestic abuse, although it's very contradicting when they say, like, speak up when there's something that's going on, speak up, do this. But then when you're there and you're speaking up and you're asking for help, they silence you. And they say, well, I don't see this, so I don't see it as that. But when you're calling domestic abuse hotline, which I have called domestic abuse hotline because of that, and they had told me, yes, mental and emotional and financial, those are all domestic abuse. So I just think, just society and just our country, I guess, if you will, it should be, those things should not be taken lightly. And, like, with authorities and the people that are in power, there is something that needs to be done, in terms of that, because the damage that's being done, and people, they're, like, putting things in the back burner or dismissing a lot of these things. It's very damaging and very, I don't know how else to explain this, but when people say, oh, we're an advocate, or just like out in the media or whatnot, they're like, oh, speak up when you're going through this. But then when you're actually in the process of doing it, just the justice system and authorities, if you will, like, they minimize it, and then they silence you.
Right, they downplay it, right?
They downplay it. Oh, we need this and that. And then, and
what's crazy,
it's kind of heartbreaking for me to say this, but I just have to say, because this is the truth, that when something happens, like, for example, if someone got really severely hurt, that's when they advocate it again and say, well, it should have been like this, you should have said something. But it's kind of like a cycle, if you will. Like, that's what's happening in just the United States alone. Like, when they're saying one thing, but when you're actually there, you're silenced, and there's something really terrible.
It's counterintuitive.
That's correct. And I believe, not even I feel, I believe, and I strongly believe, and I know a lot of people that could really, agree with me on this one, because I've spoken to several of them, that our justice system needs to make that change, and they need to be educated on narcissistic abuse. They really do. They really do, because a lot of these, like the covert narcissists, once they're out of the courtroom, because they have that skill of acting and lying and having that facade, and they can just say, oh yes, Your Honor, I'll do this, whatever, verbally. Once they're out of the courtroom, they're out there doing whatever it is that they want again. So there needs to be a change, and there needs to be more protection. And I know I saw this not too long ago. Angelina Jolie, even, for example, she said something along the lines that, like, just United States alone, domestic abuse, when you go to the authorities or someone that's in power, they tend to not really believe, or they're more, they're more wanting to help if the abuse is being done by someone that's a stranger. And I understand that. But then if you're saying it as a family member, as your blood, they're kind of more like, oh, well, I don't really believe this, all that much because it's a family member.
It's just being dramatic.
Exactly. And a lot of, and from the things that I have seen and read, and just everything, and you couldn't have said it better. A lot of times that they downplay that, and like for women alone, and I know men too, but like for women, just just the things that I have been keeping myself up with as far as that, because I'm an advocate for that, because it does go hand in hand.
Yes.
And yes, they tend to be told that, oh, you're just overreacting, you're what's so wrong with that, what's so wrong with this, someone doing that to you, like, maybe you should have done this, you should have done that. So, and I know I'm just talking like kind of basic, but
you're not, believe me when I tell you, Margaret, you're not talking basic. You're speaking on something extremely important. And the reason why this is so true is, look at late night commercials. What do they show every other commercial? If you're experiencing depression, if you're experiencing this, if you're experiencing that, take this drug. Had that
yes,
not been true, the power of mental anguish, as well as just mental suffering from whatever it may be, abuse or otherwise, they wouldn't come up with all these ridiculous inhibiting drugs. The reason they come up with it is because it is real, it is happening, and you couldn't have said it any better with regards to the system needing to recognize it, because you are a survivor of it. And there are so many more out there. Women, men,
yes,
men and men, women and women dating each other, whatever relationship you have, everybody's experiencing one way or the other.
It's a big thing. Yes. And yes, you're absolutely right. Like, men experience it as well.
Mhm.
Narcissism, it's not just with men, it's women also. So with that, I know I'm sorry, I just have to really say once again, thank you for this opportunity, because yes, we're touching base on that type of narcissism, but I'm glad that we also discuss the justice system, because they're a big part of the problem. I'm just gonna say it, like, flat out, honestly. That's, if someone is not recognizing it and silencing, that person that's seeking help and downplaying it, you're a big part of the problem. And that's why, for me, it's so important to use your voice for the good. Speak up. And if something, even if your voice shakes, but it's true and real, and you can help someone. And to me, wrong is wrong. And I'm going to say it again, I'm nowhere near perfect, but wrong is wrong. And if we're one to not speak on it, speak up about it, or, kind of like, just not get involved, I feel like if I were to do that, I would be a part of a problem.
Nothing will change.
Right. Nothing will change if I'm going to just do it to be comfortable. I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to get involved, but I do see something that's not right, and I'm not going to say anything. To me, that doesn't help, and that doesn't help. And not only that, you will be part of the problem. So just the justice system alone, I feel that, practice what you advocate for, what you advertise, if you will, to. And even when you look at those forms, what they put under category as domestic abuse. They have it that, and in paper, they have all of those in paper, but when you're actually like speaking on it and putting it in front of them, they downplay it, they dismiss it. That's the worst part. They dismiss it, and not only that, they say that you're overreacting, yes, or you're
You'll work it out.
it's not real. Yes. It's not real. Yes. You'll work it out. You'll work it out. You're the problem. You're this and that. So to me, quite honestly, it's puzzling to me to have that type of justice system, because it's not fun to be in and out of courts, as I know a lot of people can relate. It's not fun. It's like the worst place that you want to be in. But if it's like your last resort to get some help, and then you're being shut down. And I know I did speak about this with someone that had experienced it, and that person mentioned that it's even so traumatic when they're asking, okay, you're saying this is what's going on, but can I ask you for a gazillion evidence?
I want to yell at them and tell them, can you see air? Can you see gravity? Can you see the ozone layer? You can't see it, but it exists.
That's right. That's right. That's absolutely right. Absolutely right. So there needs to be something that, that needs to be changed. And you'll see it on my social too. I'm very upfront and honest with everything. And, I post in my stories too, like as far as what just the justice system itself, even like gaslighting, just how it is like mentally, emotionally, and just like mental health, being a mental advocate, like things like that. But it is really important to raise that awareness in regards to the justice system, because for some people, let's say, for example, for some people that have, sure, you found your voice, you have got out of that type of relationship, and then of course, if you have to go through like the legal system, the justice system, and they're silencing you, it's like, boom, you're back again to where you started. It ultimately feels that way. And I have been there. I just have to say, I have been there. And I've seen this post too, where this was recently, and it's out of the public, everyone can see it.
Yeah.
There were, what is that county? It was, I think, Ventura County, where they were, like raising awareness or letting people know that certain judges, certain mediators are doing this. It's just so corrupt that something needs to change. Something really definitely needs to change.
I have nothing but respect and appreciation for your courage, sharing everything that you're sharing the change that needs to take place when it comes to recognizing what abuse is. Because like I just shared a moment ago, you can't see oxygen, you can't see the ozone layer, you can't see gravity, but it exists as much as mental anguish, mental abuse.
Yes. Yes, 100%, 100%. And thank you for having this opportunity
Absolutely.
to speak on that, because I know a lot of people are going through that struggle. I know. And not only that too, they tend to always want you to have a legal representation. And I think even for some people that can't afford it, but what if you are able to go before the judge and speak up on what really happened to you, where you don't need to have a representation necessarily, but they would always want you to be represented by someone, and or even someone that can't afford it. It's just not fair. So there's a lot that I mean that there's a lot that is under that umbrella, besides having that, because there are some, I would say, it's not the easiest to also to get out of it too. And like, what if you still have children, you have children, you have to deal with like things like legally and things like that. I think that's really important to touch base on that as well. Like, there's really like a lot to it.
Yeah.
But for people that have gone through that type of abuse, and you feel like there's going to be a lot with having to deal with like the legality aspect. I just want you to know that I recognize it can be a lot. I mean, I have been there. It can be a lot, but don't compare it to how, just staying and just taking it all in and being a doormat and thinking that it's fine. This is all, what's there for me. It's not, because when you're battling that, you want to take your life back.
Yeah.
In a way where, I'll be honest, it's not going to be like easy peasy. And especially if you have other things, like I said, like legality things that needs to be done, it's not always going to be easy. But you would want to get your life back no matter what. Like, don't give up. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up. And that's why I said to even if you feel like you're too into deep, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, because it will really deteriorate you if you just want to not really recognize that, or not do anything about it. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. But I empathize with you, and even just reaching out, just like Ricky and I had said the last time, we're here for anyone that's going through something like this, and just having that listening ear, and
Margaret,
everyone is prayers.
I'm going to plug something in, because what you just said
Yes.
was so profound, and it will hit home with people who are currently going through what you've gone through, less, worse, and anywhere in between. When Margaret said, don't give up, this is important. Never, ever, ever consider taking your life. Ever. Consider this. Take your life back.
Yes. Yes. Take your life back. Please take your life back.
Yeah.
Take your life back. And I'll admit it's not going to be, an easy road, but you'll get closer to wherever you need to be. So even at times you will feel like, yeah, I've taken like 10 steps forward, but I feel like I'm taking like 15 steps back again. It just goes to show that you're so resilient. When, just, keep going, keep pushing through. And like I said, if you have to cry, you have to take a moment for yourself, go to dinner, take yourself out on a date, do it without having to, answer to anybody, because at the end of the day, it's you, your mental being, your emotional being. That's what matters.
Yes.
And you were created by our Most High for a purpose, and not for you to be a doormat at all. And you're created for a purpose. And if it needs to, move some mountains, you have to, like do all of these things. And Ricky said it like so perfectly, but also just to add on, that also builds your character.
Yes.
That also builds your character 100%. So, and not only that, you will learn so much about yourself. You will learn so much about yourself. And I have to tell you, that's such a beautiful thing. I once was thought that like, okay, what now? Where am I going for this and that? I've learned so much about myself too, that the things that I was told before, well, you can't do this, you can't do that. well, I'm able to do it. And not even really like to prove to them. You don't have to prove anything to anybody, but mainly do it for yourself. Mainly do it for yourself. And that's the most important thing. And that goes back to loving yourself. And it's so important to love yourself. And, you know, no one else will love you except for, you know, of course, our Father God. He loves you very much. But, you know, it's so important to know that you have to love you first. You know, you can't fill from an empty cup, right? That's what they say. So
right.
you have to love yourself first, and enjoy that journey to even like learn and relearn, or think like, oh, I didn't even think. And don't think that because you're in your 30s, hey, I was in my 30s when I got out. Don't think that, hey, what now? No, embrace any age you're in, any you know, status in life. Embrace it, and you will see also that wow, you'll learn that, oh, I didn't think I could do, I mean, 10 years ago I didn't think I could do that, now I can. So, you know, it's like part of like relearning about yourself, and take it as a gift. I always said that, you know, before, take it as a gift. So it's not sure that happened to you, but see it as a gift. This is like your present to yourself, and it's something that no one can take away from you. Success is really being happy.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Wow. Margaret, the only thing I could say is we went deep today.
We sure did. We sure did. And we didn't even, you know, we just went with it.
Yeah.
We just went with it. And I'm glad that we did.
And like I told you amazing listeners, this is a genuine and amazing local hero, global hero. You know what? I take it back. She's a worldwide hero. And I share that with no joke. I share that honestly, because for her to put herself and her vulnerability out here for you, it's legit. Today we got really deep into it, and I'm holding back. I had to hold back because I felt her pain. I know where she's coming from. I understood. We hit so many topics today. Your life matters. I don't care what challenges you're going through. Your life matters. You matter. You are important. You are the most important person. You need to love yourself. Never take your life. Take your life back. She's gone through it. Reach out to her. Reach out to me. We'll provide you a platform. I will leave her social media information. If you ever have any questions for either one of us, reach out. You're not alone. You're not alone.
You're not alone.
And we're both here for you, because people have given us their shoulder to cry on. People have given us their ear. We're here to pay it forward.
Yes. Yes, 100%.
Thank you once again. Inspiring one person at a time. If we could just touch one person and change their life, we've accomplished our objective. Now, if you can definitely spread the word, share this video, share this series. And I've got some great news for you. Margaret is coming back for the part 3. She's going to close out part 3, and we're not going to tell you when it is, because we want you to be on your tippy toes going, when is it? So we're just excited. So stick around.
I'm very excited.
Watch this. I know I'm excited too. Yeah. So for those of you watching her first one, the 3rd one is coming. And you better get your questions ready. So family, friends, and those of you who are going to be our new friends, we thank you. And most importantly, you are important. You matter. You are worthy. And we're here for you. Until the next video, breaking barriers. Today's amazing, wonderful, incredible guest, Margaret Manuel. Thank you, my dear.
Thank you so much, Ricky.